Okay, get comfortable. We have a long ride ahead of us. Today we'll be learning about the systems that comprise the Longbow cockpit and avionics suite. The heads-up display in the Longbow is referred to as the IHADS, or Integrated Helmet and Display Sighting System. The IHADS works a little differently than the standard aircraft HUD. Information is displayed through a monocle attached to the pilot's helmet and appears to be hanging in space in front of you as opposed to being displayed on a glass pane. There are 4 IHADS modes, each of which displays slightly different flight information. Hover mode displays basic flight information. The amount of torque being applied is displayed here. This is your airspeed indicator, shown in knots. The radar altimeter shows your height above the ground. The next mode is called bob up. This mode is used when performing pop-up attacks from behind hills. The box indicates your position relative to a spot below you on the ground. Use this display to help maintain a hover while performing your attack. Transition mode is very similar to hover mode. The main difference is the inclusion of the attitude indicator, which gives you a reference as to which way the aircraft is traveling. Cruise mode also builds on hover mode and includes a few additional displays. There is a pitch ladder, which shows the angle of pitch the aircraft is currently in, and a roll indicator, which shows your angle of bank. There are several indicators on the IHADS that are always displayed. Across the top of the display is your compass. The center line indicates your magnetic heading. For navigational purposes, the open caret points to the heading to your next waypoint. The closed caret shows which way the TAD sensors are pointing, and this indicates the scanning direction of the FCR. Okay, let's prepare to take off. First, you must disengage the rotor brake. Press the R key. Okay. Now, climb to 150 feet and come to a hover. The radar altimeter displays your altitude above ground. To increase collective, press the plus key. To decrease collective, press the minus key. You can engage the auto hover system by pressing the H key. Let's continue learning about the cockpit instrumentation. As I just mentioned, your distance above ground is displayed on the radar altimeter. This bar also gives you a quick indication of your altitude. When you're on the ground, the bar will be bottomed out. As you climb, the bar rises. The bar only displays up to 200 feet and will disappear after that. The altitude bar is extremely useful in judging your height during low-level flight. The barometric altimeter displays your altitude above sea level. Barometric altitude is more important to know during cross-country flights. Since you'll generally be flying combat missions, you should be more concerned with your altitude above ground. The vertical speed indicator shows whether the aircraft is climbing or descending. When centered, you're either hovering or maintaining level flight. Navigational information is displayed here. During a mission, your flight path is determined by a set of waypoints. Waypoints are imaginary points in space that are used as reference points for you to fly towards. The waypoint number and the distance to that waypoint is shown, as well as the time required to reach the waypoint at your current speed. The TSD displays your route and helps you see where your next waypoint is. When you reach your currently selected waypoint, the display will automatically cycle to the next waypoint on your route. If necessary, you can manually cycle waypoints. To select the next waypoint on the list, press the W key. To cycle to the previous waypoint, press the Shift W key. Okay, orient your aircraft towards the open caret on the compass. Good. Now, pitch the nose of the aircraft down to gain airspeed and continue to the waypoint. Okay. I now want you to engage the autopilot. Press the A key. The Longbow's autopilot system is fairly easy to use. There are two modes to choose from. The first is called Attitude Hold, and will hold your current heading and altitude, and is shown as AP1 on the iHads. Press the A key again. You are now in Navigation Autopilot mode. This mode will take you on the heading to your next waypoint and is displayed as AP2 on your iHads. You can adjust your autopilot speed by pressing the control key along with the left and right arrows. To adjust your autopilot altitude, use the control and up and down arrow keys. Okay, I'm going to take control of the aircraft now. In addition to the various flight information, the iHads also displays information from the TADS and FCR. The TADS, or Target Acquisition and Designation System, is the visual sighting system employed in the Longbow. This system includes the forward-looking infrared as well as several other cameras used to find and designate targets. The box in the bottom center is called the FOR, or Field of Regard box. The FOR box represents the total area the TAD sensors can scan, about 220 degrees wide. The small box in the center shows the field of view of the TADs. The dashed line shows where the fire control radar is currently looking. To the left of the FOR box is the High Action Display, or HAD, which displays target information. The number on top is the range to your current target. This can be based on input from the TADS or FCR. We'll cover how to do that in the next lesson. The bottom line displays information about the sighting systems. The iHads also displays information about the weapon systems aboard the aircraft. Your currently selected weapon is displayed here. RKT stands for rockets. MSL stands for the Hellfire missile, either radar or laser. And ATA is short for your air-to-air missile, the Stinger. Another part of the high action display is the weapon inhibit field. When you can't fire the weapon, a message here will inform you as to why not. Usually because you lost line of sight to the target, or it's out of range. Let's look at the symbology for each weapon in detail. The chain gun is always armed. Unless you manually track the gun, it will always be locked onto your current target. If you don't have a target selected, the gun will bore sight straight ahead. You can select the burst rate of the chain gun by pressing the G key. You can choose between 10, 20, 50, and 100 round bursts. Your folding fin aerial rockets are essentially small, unguided missiles. The I-beam cursor is used to aim the rockets. When the cursor is over a target and you are within firing constraints, the cursor will become solid and you can launch. For air-to-air engagements, you can carry 4 Stinger missiles mounted on the tips of the helicopter's stub wings. When selected, a set of concentric rings will appear. Their movement represents the movement of the missile's seeker head. To fire, steer towards your target. When you get a lock, the circles will fix on the target, and you'll hear a steady lock tone. The symbology for the Hellfire missile is a little more complex. We'll cover this in detail later, so for now, here's a brief description. There are two modes from which you can launch. Lock on before launch mode, or LOBL, is used when you already have your target locked. The box represents the firing constraints of the Hellfire. When the box is solid, you have a good lock and can fire. If the box is dashed, the missile hasn't locked onto the target yet. The constraint box in lock-on after launch mode is much bigger. The LOAL mode allows you to fire a missile before you actually have the target locked. The missile will loft higher than usual, allowing more time for the seeker head to find its target. To switch between LOAL and LOBL mode, use the insert key. As I said before, we'll cover the weapon systems in excruciating detail in the next lesson. I'd like to move on to discuss the multifunction displays now. Both cockpits in the Longbow contain two multifunction displays which are used to display a wide variety of very useful information. This information is categorized and broken down into separate pages. To cycle through the displays on the left MFD, use the comma key. To cycle through the displays on the right MFD, use the period key. The engine page displays information about the rotor and engine systems. The amount of torque being applied is shown along with readouts for rotor and engine RPM. The weapon page displays your loadout information along with sight information. The aircraft symbol is used to show how many of each weapon type you have left. The currently selected weapon is shown as a solid color. Hellfire missiles are shown here. The R shows you are carrying radar Hellfires. An L would be shown for laser Hellfires. The number of rockets on board is displayed, along with what type. MP stands for MPSM rockets. RC stands for high explosive rockets. The number of Stinger missiles is shown here. The amount of chain gun ammo available is displayed on the gun counter, along with the burst setting. At the top of the page is the master arm indicator. When the weapon systems are activated, this will read ARM. To arm or disarm the weapon system, use the Control M key. To the left and right are the sight indicator. This will read either TADS or FCR, depending on which system is currently in use. You can toggle between the two by pressing the Home key. The launch mode indicator is located just left of the gun counter. This will display either LOAL or LOBL for whichever mode you are currently in. To the right of the gun counter is the ranging indicator. The range to target can be determined by either the laser rangefinder or by the fire control radar. LRF corresponds to the laser rangefinder, and FCR, of course, stands for the fire control radar. Lastly, the amount of chaff remaining is displayed on the bottom left. The flight page basically repeats important information from the IHADS onto its own MFD page. You can check your airspeed, torque, heading, and other pertinent information here. The TADS page relays information from the various optical sensors to an MFD. The currently selected camera is displayed and will show FLIR for forward-looking infrared, DTV for the day television, or DVO for the direct view optics. We'll discuss these in more detail in the next lesson. The TADS will lock on to your currently selected target by default. To zoom in on a target, use the Z key. To zoom out, use the X key. The current level of zoom the camera is in is shown on this display and is indicated by an N for narrow, M for medium, and W for wide field of view. The TSD, or Tactical Situation Display, is the most crucial display aboard the aircraft. All relevant battlefield information is displayed here, including all TADS and FCR targets, enemy lines, air defense threats, and waypoint information. Your aircraft is displayed on the bottom. All known targets are displayed with corresponding symbology. Tanks are represented by an H symbol. Air defense vehicles are represented by a triangle with a number that corresponds to the type of vehicle it is. For example, a ZSU-23 would show a triangle with a 2-3 underneath it. Circles represent wheeled vehicles such as trucks. Squares represent buildings. If you have line of sight to the target, its symbol will be solid. Your designated target will have a diamond around its symbol. Priority fire zones, or PFZs, are also displayed on the TSD. A PFC will target all vehicles within the area drawn. This is very useful in taking out groups of targets quickly. Again, we'll cover these in more detail in the next mission. Your waypoint information is displayed in the lower left. The range to your current target is displayed in the lower right. The range out to which the TSD is displaying information is shown in the top right. You can toggle between 2, 5, 10, 20, and 50 kilometer range by using the page down key. At times, this display will become very busy with all the information being displayed, so you can choose to display only certain types of information. This is called decluttering the display. You can toggle between showing only waypoint information, only target information, or both simultaneously by pressing the D key. The ASE, or Aircraft Survivability Equipment page, displays air defense threats only. This system is made up of the radar warning receiver, the radio frequency interferometer, the radar and infrared jammers, and a chaff dispenser. Your aircraft is shown in the middle, giving you a 360-degree view around you. The RWR and RFI determine the type of threat and its location and display them relative to your position. The engagement range of the threat is displayed as a circle. Like the TSD, the ASE displays symbols with numbers corresponding to the type of threat. The radar and infrared jammer status is displayed, as well as the number of chaff pods available. This page will automatically come up in the left MFD when a threat detects you. If you so choose, you can toggle that feature by pressing the Shift-A key. Besides a graphical representation, the ASE provides voice messages when a threat detects you, including what type of threat, its location relative to you, and whether it is tracking or launching on you. The last MFD I'll talk about is the radar page. This page displays raw returns from the FCR. Only the location of the target is shown, since the TSD is responsible for classifying this information. The radar can be set to one of two modes, either air-to-ground or air-to-air. Air mode shows targets in a 360-degree sweep around you. You can toggle between ground and air mode by pressing the page up key. The range of this display is toggled by pressing the page down key. The up front controller displays radio information along with warning messages. If you experience a system failure, a message describing the problem will appear here. Now, all of these MFDs can be selected individually, or you can use master modes to display them in groups. Each mode will pull up the MFDs which contain the most useful information for that mode. The currently selected master mode is shown on the iHabs. To cycle between them, use the M key. The master modes include navigation mode, air-to-air mode, direct fire, and indirect fire. As a backup to the digital systems in the cockpit, there are several analog gauges that also display flight information. Included are an artificial horizon, an airspeed indicator, and an altimeter. Okay, that about wraps up this lesson. You should now have a basic understanding of the Longbow cockpit, instrumentation, and avionics. We'll take a more in-depth look at the weapon and sighting systems in the next lesson. See you then.